Hello and welcome to Interview Showcase. I'm Tim Blackburn and joining me today is Ricky Goodall. Ricky is a mixed martial arts competitor as well as a second-year marketing student here at NSCC Waterfront. I'm going to be talking to Ricky today about the growing popularity of mixed martial arts and his career. Thanks for joining me, Rick.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now you're 26 years old and you've been competing professionally since 2007, but your interest in fighting goes way, way back to your childhood in New Glasgow. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, I kind of with a few friends when we were growing up, actually as young as 5 years old, 4 and 5 years old, we were looking at black belt magazines and kind of thinking about that. And funny thing is that one of my friends, we actually prayed for the powers of Bruce Lee when we were 5 years old in a little treehouse. So.
Did you get them?
No, unfortunately.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Well, in the time, like when you were a kid, probably the most popular fighting disciplines or shows or whatever would be boxing and wrestling. Why did you gravitate towards martial arts?
It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the childhood dream of every kid wants to be a ninja kind of thing, you know. I kind of grew up more in the age of the Ninja Turtles and movies like that, so I think that was more the influence.
Yeah, see, the Ninja Turtles were a big influence on me too, but it was more, I just wore the tights.
Right,
so,
sure.
What did you do? And one of your friends from that era that you kind of grew up with is Jeff Kennedy, and he played a pretty important role in your progression.
Absolutely.
Tell me about Jeff.
Well, Jeff, it's funny because we had a lot of influence on each other in a lot of ways, but he definitely started me off when I was around 13 years old in karate. He ended up being one of the youngest black belts in Canada.
Really?
Competed nationally, got third in the country, and went on to Japan to compete as well.
Wow.
And so yeah, I mean, the first time we ever trained together was when I was 13, and he was trying to teach me how to spar with no contact. And I ended up punching him in the nose and gave him a nosebleed. So it kind of all went from there. And him and I actually played in bands together. Growing up, I'm a musician as well, and we both went in the military together too when we were 17.
Oh, right
so
on.
yeah, so it was.
So while you were in the military, was there any kind of training there? Like, did you?
There's actually none. I was kind of disappointed when I went to the military. There was absolutely no hand-to-hand combat whatsoever as far as I went. I know when you get advanced there is, but even then, even the advanced stuff is still not quite the same level of the training that we do. So
yeah,
I think that was one of the disappointments of being in the military too.
Yeah, I suppose. Now, like one of the things I read about you is when you folks were in high school in grade 11, you used to have fight nights, Friday night fight nights at your apartment?
Yeah, I lived on my own pretty young, so I had my own apartment, and we used to basically get together at lunch times and Friday evenings, and we basically just have Walmart boxing gloves, and we didn't have mouth guards. Looking back, it's kind of crazy. We didn't have mouth guards or anything. We had no idea what we were doing. We were out in gravel driveway, basically just beating the crap out of each other.
So your parents were okay with that, or?
Well, yeah, it kind of paved the way for what we did now, but yeah, it's definitely
because I know for myself, you know, like I said, myself and my cousins were into wrestling, but when we tried to imitate, we were kind of told not to do that. So your parents were totally great with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just one of the things we just kind of did, and you know, not all the kids' parents obviously knew what was going on. But, yeah.
You had the cool parents.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you've pretty much trained your whole life in some aspect or another. What disciplines have you touched on? What have you?
Well, I started with karate, and that was a big passion of mine for a while, mostly for the traditional aspect. There's a lot of theory involved. There's a lot of actually learning Japanese terms and things like that. But I kind of transitioned into kickboxing when I was 15, which has a lot less techniques but a lot more application and more practical use, and kind of went on to jiu-jitsu and judo and wrestling from there. And they're all important aspects of MMA training later on, but I just kind of liked them. I enjoyed them, and the kickboxing was best because it was a lot more competitive than the karate was.
Kind of happy coincidence. Yeah. So I read that you attended Extreme Cage Combat's first event in Halifax.
Yeah.
What kind of effect did that have on you?
It was huge. Yeah, I mean, I knew one of the guys that was fighting personally. I grew up training under him a little bit too.
Nice.
And it was his first fight. It was a sold-out crowd. I waited in line for an hour in the rain. And it was their first, you know, it was the first event Atlantic Canada has ever had. It was an amazing energy, amazing crowd. We were way up in the stands and could barely see anything. But it was really amazing, and it kind of opened the door and kind of put that in the back of my mind.
Right on. So when did you actually make the decision to compete, like to get serious?
I was training with guys who were competing, including the guy that fought on that card. His name's Jason McKay. And he showed up at our club one day and said, I'm holding a mixed martial arts event in 5 weeks in New Glasgow. Do you guys know anyone that want to compete? And I just literally just jumped in right then and said I wanted to do it.
Nice.
And I was about 25 pounds off where I needed to be, and started the hard work after that.
So when you started, that's I guess one of the things that's I find through your story that I've read is the cutting weight and coming down in weight classes, and that's pretty integral when you're training?
Yeah,
for
it's huge.
fights, eh?
Mostly because you're fighting guys that are big guys. Like even at my weight category now, which is 170, I'm still fighting guys that walk around at 200 or 205.
Wow.
So I mean, to be fighting at 205, you're fighting guys that are 240 pounds and above.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
I mean, it's really part of the game. You have to, unfortunately, be.
Totally. So your first fight, you get in there. It's probably pretty crazy, overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got kind of beat down a little bit in the first round, saved by the bell. How did you turn it around? Because you came back and won it by decision.
It's funny because, I mean, in a fight career, you learn these things. Like, you learn whether you have heart or whether you have the ability to keep going. So at that time, I had no idea other than, personal experiences in my life. At the end of the first round, the guy has what's called full mount. He's on top of me, literally beating my head off the canvas. And basically the bell went, and I could feel myself slowly going out. I was covering up. He wasn't connecting everything, but I was definitely getting my butt kicked for sure. So and then I get up and I had a 1 minute break and then turned it all around. I had great cornermen and coaches, at the time, who are still big coaches of mine. So
you pulled it out. Then your very next fight. Yeah, actually, there was like a 2-year absence.
2 years, yeah.
What took so long for the next fight?
Just some injuries and just kind of the coaches I was working with in New Glasgow were also kind of starting their own fight career too, so I didn't have somebody pushing me quite as much as I needed. Yeah. And a few injuries and stuff. I had a broken hand and a broken foot, and just some of the things that happen in training and not necessarily training properly or dieting properly. Yeah. All has an effect on it. So it took about 2 years. Yeah.
2 years, but you stayed involved in MMA.
Definitely, yeah. Stayed involved. Not as much as I should have, but definitely a lot.
So then, in 2 years, you came back. You started training hard. You dropped a bunch of weight again.
Right. Yeah.
You fought a fellow. It was
Kurt Peltier.
Peltier, yes. You fought him. You lost on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's another pretty important lesson I would, and it's one of my questions because I'm an MMA fan, and I see the guys that lose and they come back. And how do you take a loss like that, and take that and mentally bring yourself back from that and get back in the ring?
The big thing about losing is that everybody loses. Yep. There's nobody that has a perfect record. The most important thing is that you give it 100%, and then when you lose, you just know that you weren't at that level yet. When I lost that fight, I knew I should have been able to win that fight. Yeah. I went in the fight with a little injury, like I told you, I had a little torn rib.
Yeah.
I was winning the fight. I was completely winning, dominating. I just got caught with a shot, and when I got to the ground, I couldn't really move to my side. I had the torn rib, and I kind of beat myself. And then, that plays in your mind. When you go on a fight and you just get finished or you get beat by points or whatever, you have no choice over that. It just kind of happens. But when you know you could have did better, that's what drove me to work harder after that.
Nice. And then you came back, had a four win streak.
Right.
Then you've been fighting some pretty impressive guys lately and stepping up to a national stage. I see you brought your trunks in here with all you. Tell me about this.
Well, these are my fight trunks that I fought for Warrior One, which is the biggest event that's ever hit a light in Canada. Yep. It has an international television following. They're covered by Fox Sports. They're covered by The Score in Canada, the Fight Network all across the world. And so these particular shorts have all my sponsors that help me get to that level. I have my dietitian's website on there, and my physiotherapists, and people that play a huge role that are behind the scenes with most MMA fighters. Awesome. There's so many people that help with that don't get usually the recognition, the credit they deserve.
Nice. So what's up next for you? What can we look forward to?
I have 2 possible title fights. One is actually against the guy I beat in July of '09, Manika Wiva. He has a title now in Moncton, where I've moved on and moved to bigger stages. He's moved up in his rankings and end up getting this title, so they believe that I should fight for that. And also a world title that I lost by 1 point by decision. The promoters reviewed the tape and think that I won, so they want me to rematch that guy as well. So awesome. That's all in the new year.
Wicked. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I want to thank you, Ricky, for coming in.
For sure.
Thank you at home for joining us. I'm Tim Blackburn, and I'm looking forward to the next time we meet. Take care.